Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Line Change, the NHL betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this and many other episodes are my co-hosts and friends, Nick Martin and Tim Kalinowski. And finally, we have a nice, robust slate of NHL action this week. 12 games on the docket Thursday night. And with a slate this large, we always like to start with our favorite underdog. And Nick, you can drive the bus on this pick, but all three of us are in agreement.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go with the Winnipeg Jets to upset in Vegas as my underdog. I think that Vegas right now is maybe the luckiest. It's hard to say the defending champs are lucky, but being 9-0-1 in this regular season is absolutely bananas. Every single game is just find a way in overtime, find a way doing as little as possible. They played a completely soft schedule. I think that all just plays into getting a great number on this spot. There's still some plus 142s out there at the time of recording. Numbers around that, I would cut off at plus 135. So I think that should be fairly safe to be there tomorrow. And the Jets are playing a pretty solid, structured team game. They've got Hellebuck in there. I just think as I continue to feel with all these Vegas games, like this is going to play out closer to 50-50 gameplay. And eventually the Knights are going to start losing some of these. Like you don't just get to go into a shootout or 3-on-3 or whatever it is. And the chances were there for the Canadians. Like the mistakes were already made from Vegas. It's past them being good or doing the little things. It was just the fact that guys didn't finish and that sort of thing. And it's been so much of that where they're just not. And like you can't rag on them. Like they're 9-0-1. I'm not trying to say they're a bad team, but this is all just playing into us getting a good number here. So I think it's a really good time to stick with fading them. It's been a nightmare so far, but eventually I just think you don't get to, play coin flip hockey and win every one. So, the Jets have been really strong and I think it's a good time to take them at this price.
Yeah, the one thing I'll add there, I'm on the Jets too, is that they're playing a lot of these coin flip games, and the schedule has not been that hard either. So just something to keep in mind. Tim, any thoughts on Jets and Knights before we move on to a couple other pooches?
Yeah, it's kind of been the way we've been obviously all trying to fade Vegas like idiots over and over. It's been, again, we've unfortunately had to bet on weak teams because, and you referenced it with the schedule not being that great. It's like finally we get a good price on a team that should be up to the occasion, that is good enough to do what we want them to do. If we were to look back and do some self-scouting and be like, it's a lot of like wishful thinking with some of the not so great teams that we've been trying to fade. We did Vegas catch because of the spots.
The Hawks.
Yeah, the Hawks. Yeah.
I mean, I guess right. It was the day after line change.
Yeah, it was a Saturday. So
it was in the app. It was like we got that one. They lost that overtime game, and then it's so close. Like I actually had three-way tie and Canadians on Monday. Fortunately, couldn't get both in the app in time, but I still think that was the same kind of thing. You just see them getting caved for the whole third, sitting back, playing close hockey. It's been you look at how many of these are 1-goal games and how many of them are not versus close teams. And the other thing that I think is kind of worth touching on is the Jets took it to the Knights pretty hard when they played earlier this year. Like we were on them in that game when it was pick'em, and it was a tough luck loss for sure. I'm not a huge guy that thinks like prior matchups indicate much in the NHL. Like there's not as much stylistic stuff that applies as other sports and so on. But I think that's a little interesting just to say like they've already played this year and it was one of those Knights wins that was pretty lucky. So I'm definitely happy to like just go right back to it when it's probably going to be a pretty close game.
Are you going to be happy to join me on my underdog?
I don't hate it.
The San Jose Sharks, baby.
There were some numbers that I thought were long enough to do it on Wednesday.
0-8-1 San Jose Sharks taking on the Vancouver Canucks, who are off to a pretty good start. They did catch the Predators with their backup Kevin Lankinen the other night and took advantage with a 5-2 win. Pettersson with a hat trick. So tough loss there, or tough loss for the Preds, I should say. And this spot is just, I think it's, we were talking 4 episodes ago about putting San Jose on the betting blacklist. So good show of self-control here that it's taken that long. And I mean that usually it's a lot shorter for me to rebet a team after putting them on the blacklist. But San Jose has had a really tough schedule to start this season. They're bad, like historically bad out of the gates. But I mean, they just got no favors with what's been their easiest game. The Caps.
The Caps.
Yeah.
And I actually ended
and
up
the
getting
Caps
stuck
aren't
into
like.
I thought the Sharks were a decent look in that game. Played them +1.5, lost on the empty netter, but like that was probably their best game of the year. I think I agree. And
I'm sick of hearing too, like,
and everyone knows the Canucks. This is getting close to like their peak, and we love them. Like I think we gave out 3 preseason futures on that team that look great, but like I'm not gonna lie and say they're like playing better than they are.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the underlying numbers, which are still a little sketchy this early in the season, and Vancouver's operating at like a 44-45% expected goal rate on public models. So they're likely going to tilt the ice in the right direction here, but it shouldn't be as dominant as we've seen from other teams against the Sharks. And we catch Blackwood, who knows? So yeah, I think San Jose. I wouldn't be too worried that this number is going to disappear overnight, because I can't imagine there are going to be a lot of people outside of this video conference that are going to be rushing to bet the Sharks. So, but yeah, that's my favorite dog here, Tim.
Not to Francesa this, but
oh no, please, you can Francesa all you want on this podcast. I will text him and tell him to listen.
Listen to this: Golden Knights, Colorado, Carolina, Boston, Nashville, Florida, Tampa, Carolina, Washington. That's like every playoff team. They like basically do like a playoff round robin to start the year with this weak team. And I just
their 4 home games were against the division winners from last year. Then they went on that road trip. So it's just been unfair to them. Like they deserve it a little bit for the way they've built this roster, but
I went in the app to make sure that I have not bet them one time this season, and I haven't.
Jesus
so
Christ.
I feel really good that I'm not just going like over and over again, like martingaling them. They're eventually going to win. So you know what? Screw it. I'll join. I haven't bet them yet this year.
You're missing out. What's your favorite underdog?
My favorite underdog is going to be the Carolina Hurricanes. They're playing at the New York Rangers. And this is all about the spot for me. The Rangers just finished a long road trip, first game back home. This is Nick said he doesn't put too much stock into that spot, but listen, you come back after that, everyone's patting New York on the back. Great job. Look at this team. They're exceeding the expectations that we've had for them. And you get a Carolina Hurricanes team that this isn't a cupcake. If they do sleepwalk, like Hurricanes are going to make it difficult on them. So I like Carolina. I got them at even money, but I'd honestly play it. It's not going to move to like Carolina being a favorite. So I would keep playing Carolina here.
Yeah, I think the Canes are going to be like they're about to roll. They've got Svechnikov back. They're going to start humming. I think Pesci's loss hurts, but and I mean they're 6-4-0. Like for all that early season, like that just shows the standard from this team, especially in the regular season. That like you even hear anything when they're 6-4-0 and like comfortable. Like that's a really solid record.
Yeah,
like
things have been tightened up too
so
lately.
High under Rod, and just feels like they're about to go on a big run here.
Yes, I mean because they just don't lose in October under Rod in other years. So this is a 3-alarm fire in Carolina compared to what we've seen out of them. Yeah, I think that this also is a decent overtime look with the way these teams play are going to want to play, especially Carolina on the road. So we'll see. So that's Canes, Sharks, and Jets as our underdogs. And now we'll take a bite out of the big board here, and we'll start with the Panthers and Wings. Florida's traveling as a -115 favorite into Detroit. The Wings at -105, and the total's at 6.5, Nick, and that's where you're looking.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would be surprised to hear that I like the over here. I think it's just a great spot with the way the Panthers want to play and the way that Detroit has been playing. They still have some shaky bodies on the back end. The Red Wings, I mean, pretty standard goaltending matchup. 2 teams that really want to get after it and score and have played at quite a high pace, which is, I mean, that's basically anyone who's watched the Panthers the last couple of regular seasons, nothing's changing on that front. So I think it's a good spot to look at 6.5. I can easily see something like 4-3 or 5-3. Pretty fun prop game too, I think, especially with, if you keep an eye out, the Panthers kind of have a lot of rotating parts too in this game. Montour and Ekblad are close. Bennett's not going to play. He seems like he's going to be out for a while. But yeah, I think it's nothing crazy on the cap here, just like the over.
Yeah, I would lean towards Detroit, but generally, I think I'm just going to probably pass here. It looks like a game that's going to have a ton of chaos in it. Tim, anything for you?
Yeah, Nick convinced me on the over there. These are two teams, frankly, I just don't have a lot of good feel on. Because Detroit is, I guess this is the first time we've seen them like get rolling from what we've been waiting on for this turnaround, this, young blood team turning it around. I have a hard time figuring out if they're for real or not.
Okay. Kings and Sens now. Los Angeles coming off a win in Toronto on Tuesday night. Ottawa as a -105 home favorite here. As a -105 home dog. The Kings at -115 as a slight road favorite, and the total is at 7. The one thing I will say here to pat myself on the back is a couple of episodes ago I said that it just feels like there's some smoke around the Senators, and that was before the Shane Pinto thing. Now there's a whole lot of smoke. It's a fire there with the Evgeny Dadonov punishment, and then Pierre Dorion gets let go today. Just with the way things have gone with the Senators, there's just been so much off ice stuff, but nothing that's derailed them from a results perspective yet. But I do like Los Angeles here. I think we saw it in Toronto. Like, this is just a good team that I think maybe deserves a little bit more credit than they're getting. I think it might come down to goaltending is why we see these numbers on LA being sitting where they are. And against Korpisalo or Forsberg, neither of whom have set the world on fire yet this season, it's not a huge concern on Thursday night as long as Phoenix Copley doesn't go. Cam Talbot looked pretty good against Toronto. Anything for you here, Tim?
What a great game that Los Angeles just played against Toronto the other night. It was just total all out. That's how you play a road hockey game. I have to ask you if you've seen anything in the news that, like, is Ottawa going to be able to do a full GM search during the season, or are they going to push this to after the season? Because I say that in the direction of DJ Smith could be on thin ice here, especially when you bring in a new general manager.
Yeah, I would say that they'll just hook an interim in from somewhere. It's a new owner too, so I'm sure he'll love.
They might go with the laziest possible option. And
Peter Chiarelli. Come on, the guy who landed the Islanders, Matt Barzal. We love Peter Chiarelli around.
Yeah.
To talk about this game too quick, like I think it's Kings or pass, but I'm not going to bet it on the slate. But I would actually go ahead and disagree on the goaltending comment and just say that's like, just saying that's all the difference here between the teams is wrong. Like, the Kings back.
No, I think I'm saying that's why I think the Kings keep getting priced the way they do. Is I think that people are a little shaky on their goaltending.
Like, we've always loved the Kings on this pod, and they look deep. They look good. They're one of our cup picks. I'm happy about that because this team is looking pretty scary good, other than the goaltending situation.
Yep.
And the Sens, they found a way versus the Pens. I don't think it was as beautiful as the scoreline suggested. And in time, I'm not sure how the blue line is going to fare with
they beat up
Chikrin out. They might get Zoo back here, but we'll see.
We have to monitor that, like, how Ottawa's effort looks in this game because of all the external factors going on. Like, we say that, hey, that on the ice is different than off ice, but
I think the team's going to bring it. Like, they got some good guys in that room, and I feel like I believe in the Stars setting the tone.
Even we kind of got a glimpse of that too with, like, the Pinto day. Like, they played on Long Island that day. They had a good effort. One of their players got egregiously hurt in that game, and they really played a good game in that. They lost,
like, I think it's
and
one
then
of
they
those
responded with a Penguins
pros.
win.
They're gonna come out. They're gonna do their thing. It's just,
I think the Kings are better.
and I mean they're in it. at the end of the day, they know who's in that room. I think the Senators team is still going to believe in themselves, right? It's just there's some flaws with the current roster for sure.
All right, we got an in the building special between the Lightning and Blue Jackets. Tim will be there to see Tampa as a -162 favorite, traveling to Columbus, +136 on the Jackets, and the total's at 6.5. I don't think the number's there yet, but if it creeps up, I would be interested in the Jackets here. We're not entirely convinced with Tampa. Are we entirely convinced Jonas Johansson can keep this up for another couple weeks until Vasilevsky gets back? Are we convinced that the Blue Jackets are good? Not really, but better than I think that people gave them credit for. Their record maybe portrays, and they'll be feisty. Like, this isn't the last year's Blue Jackets that some nights they just absolutely wilted. So, yeah, I'm kind of interested in Columbus here, Nick.
I fully agree. I was hoping for a bigger number here. Thought it could be a great spot to fade the Lightning, but we didn't get it. I didn't know what to expect there, and like that Kraken game for Tampa was another one where defensively it was pretty ugly. And I just keep looking at this like and this isn't just like a trust me bro take. They're 7th in expected goals against per 60 right now. I think that matches the eye test pretty clearly. Like, they've been leaking a lot of good chances, and Jonas Johansson is saving their bacon right now. So like, that's not a team I want to bet on. But I mean, yeah, they're priced fairly close to Columbus here, and I just don't believe in the Blue Jackets enough to bite.
Tim?
Yeah, like I said, I'm doing a little traveling, so I'll be at the game. So that means I'll probably buy puck drop beyond Columbus, but do with that as you will, because that's a, in the building bet, which are different than best bets in play on. So I'm going to have to, I'm going to be on Columbus, the same game parlays, shots, goals. So,
and they'll all win because they always win. They always win.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I know. Never heartbreaking fashion ever.
Well, good luck to you there in Columbus, and good luck to Nick and myself from an In the Building special to a podcast derby between the Islanders as a road favorite, -122 in Washington, take on the Caps, who are +102 and a 5.5 total for this one. Only one on the board. Oh, no, the Rangers and Canes too. Yeah, I got nothing here, Nick. I think that this line looks about right. Nick Backstrom stepping away from the game. Maybe an emotional building in DC. You'll have the Kleenex out.
I will. I love Backy. It sucks. I agree. I thought this might open at Pick'em and that I'd have to sit here and say the Isles were the correct side, but -125 is, I don't think there's value on either side. And yeah, to talk quick on the Backstrom thing, just because I did see people saying like tough loss for the Caps, big loss, blah, 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 all that. And he means a lot in the room. Fans love him. All of that. But at this point, like, this doesn't hurt them this year at all. That's the reality of it. Like, McMichael's going to get those minutes now. He's proven to be a better player. Backstrom struggled bad lot. Like, he's just not what he is. It sucks to see him go out like just the way he's about to. But like, he's not a good player anymore, and that's obviously why this is happening. So I don't think you want to move the needle on that front when you're handicapping Caps games. But yeah, that's my only note here.
Tim, you believe.
I am on the Islanders in this game. I think the Isles are great. I love the Islanders. I'll tell you, that Leboff guy, he's kind of convinced me that this is like, this is like the old Canadians, this team. They're unbelievable. No, I worry about Washington. I really do. I think it's, yeah, sure. Does the Backstrom thing hurt the on ice, product, how good the team is? Nick says no, but it's like a vibe check game. I just worry about the Caps vibes. It just seems this veteran team kind of, I don't know what direction they're going in, but the Isles, they know what direction they're going in. They score goals now.
Yeah, they score, baby.
Everyone scores on the Caps.
Everyone scores.
I mean, I just don't think they're that good. I'm not that worried about like the vibes or anything. Like, the reality is, like, the guys who are going to play a bit more minutes now have been better, right? Like, McMichael's having a good year. This is just, now he gets a spot to actually center a line and play some bigger minutes. And I think a lot of Caps fans are happy about that.
Yeah, until he looks up and realizes he's going to be going up against Bowie Horvat tomorrow night.
Yeah, welcome to the NHL.
Scary stuff. Horvat and Barzal have been good, and for some reason Lane Lambert keeps splitting them up mid-game. But it seems like for those who are into shot props, they keep talking about Barzal shooting more, so that's another one to keep an eye on. But yeah, nothing for me there. Stars and Oilers now. I was gonna say the Oilers. Stars and Oilers. Stars are plus 110. The Oilers minus 130 and a 6.5 total. Stars in action on Wednesday. Full disclosure, we are recording before that game. I thought that I was going to catch some people sleeping and get a better number on Dallas, but didn't come. So I think this looks about right for this matchup. I thought that maybe people were going to read too much into the Heritage Classic, Nick. And maybe you are. Maybe you are.
I am a little bit. Like, I just think the Oilers, it's going to suck if Campbell starts. And because I like the Oilers here, Ottinger's playing Wednesday in the first leg of the back-to-back. They're not going to go back-to-back with him this early in the year. They shouldn't. If they did, it'd be dumb. I have had some bad goaltending predictions this year. And to talk about that quick, actually, I think this is an interesting note because we kind of got screwed by the Lankinen start yesterday. He did give up a goal that Saros wouldn't have given up, and that cost us in the end, losing the total by a goal. But with that said, we went into this last year, and I think it's a really important note. Betting early in the NHL is still so critical. And that game still barely got back to where we actually lost line value from being on the right side prior to the surprising Lankinen announcement. And I think that's a really important note, right? Because like, I think people get really frustrated the times you get in early and something like this, something drastic does happen. But like the other 8 out of 10 times work out in your favor. And even then being on the right side early, like you could see how much value we did gain. Even once Lankinen went in, it wasn't that bad of a number, or like it was still close to where we gave it out, right? So I think that's like an important note when you're trying to jump these goalie things and jump on lines early, because half the time, like you're still going to be close to the number if something does go against you. And I think that note's relevant here because I'll be a little pissed if I give this out and Campbell surprise starts, but I also still think that Oil might be a slightly bigger favorite once Wedgwood's announced and people kind of put the spot together. So
anything for you here, Tim?
I worry post Heritage Classic. Like that was like the biggest game that was like the Super Bowl up there. The Battle of Alberta, there, two sinking teams. They did it. The Oil, like who was going to rise to the occasion? Edmonton. And for a team that has not got off to a great start, for a team that still has a ton of glaring issues, to be told, to be patted on the back in the manner that they have in the media after that game, I worry about them running into the Stars team in a non-Heritage Classic environment. Tell me I'm crazy.
I think you're crazy, honestly. Like to not like the spot. Like they're 2-5-1 and they've had 4 off days. Like, is it really? I mean, maybe I could be wrong. I think the Stars are a good team, so I don't want to sit here and have too much conviction. But if you're the Oilers and you don't bring a decent game here, you're 2-5-1. You're supposed to be a cup favorite. Like, who do you?
We've been saying that 7 games in a row, though.
I know, I agree, but like, and it is coming around too. Like, as bad as the Flames have been, if the defensive, they get some saves, if Skinner locks in, I don't think, like, I'm just not seeing where they're going to be so much more flawed than last year.
Maybe the Jack Campbell Vezina run starts Thursday night.
Back
against Scott Wedgwood.
Yeah, fireplace.
Habs and Coyotes now. The Coyotes also on a back-to-back. Vejmelka starting on Wednesday night. So it'll likely be Connor Ingram on Thursday. It's at home. Both legs of this back-to-back, I believe, are at home. Is that wrong? Yes, it is wrong. Yeah, they're in Anaheim on Wednesday night. Yep. So not a great spot for Arizona. Still, I think that they are deserved favorite against a Montreal team that keeps kind of just chugging along, putting together results. They did this last year too. Like this team really showed some gusto. There was a point last year, and I would say maybe a little bit later than we are right now in the season, where Montreal was actually in a playoff spot, and then the losing streak we all kind of predicted was coming came. I don't think that there's much betting value here. I do think Logan Cooley to score a goal at some point should be happening. Like, he's just much better than someone with a goose egg. I think he's up there with most assists in the year in the entire league without a goal. I think he's just trailing Philip Hronik. Anything for you here, Tim?
Oh, I'm on the Yotes, baby. This is our team. What are you guys doing passing on this game? This is our team. Cooley has been a staple in my goal round robins this season. So haven't completed
just
one.
Leave them out. Leave them out just once.
Yeah,
You'll get on the
thing
board.
is, they've tanked the numbers. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even, because I gave him out a few times too, and they were like dropping the numbers as if he's producing, but really there's no people are sitting on this.
I know I'm waiting on it, but I'll tell you, Anaheim to back home to Arizona. That's not necessarily Calgary to Florida. Okay. It's not the worst. Not
What
the
is that
worst
on a
trip
plane?
in the
Like
world.
35 minutes?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, the Habs too, like, they've played probably their best 2 games of the year, the last 2. And they just keep finding a way. They've got some of that crazy Mugambo going on. I don't know. I don't love the number, but I still have to say Yotes or pass.
Those
win this game.
Those like good graphics that Action Network tweets out, especially during baseball season. It's like Orioles most profitable team of the season. It's like, plus $8,000 for $100 bet or whatever. If we think the Yotes are good, I think the Yotes could be on the top 5 of the NHL version of that graphic. So for me, I'm going to be like kicking myself if I don't take them as like a short favorite against a team that I don't think too highly of in the Habs.
Yeah, what are they break even? Because they had the big actually probably better than break even, because the Devils game was like plus 240.
Yeah.
Montreal's, they're doing some things well. I think it's just a spot that I'm just scared enough that I don't want to do it.
The Habs play it. The Habs play at that, monster arena and Center Bell and, beautiful, all the amenities. And, you go down to Mullet Arena. Like, it's like,
it'll be half Habs fans though.
It is true, but it's like Alabama going to play like, UConn. Like,
Tim, you must not have been listening last year when the Coyotes, we talked about playing them at home all year, and they think they were like the best home field advantage in any sport of like the last 10 years in terms of money returned. Whether or not the graphics department made a graphic for us, I have no idea, but
hard ice. They got hard ice there.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone does say best ice
in hockey, which is just so good. So good. Let's get this team to the playoffs. Come on. Preds and Kraken now. Like Nick said, Nashville caught us with a surprising start for Kevin Lankinen against the Canucks. So you'd have to assume that it'll be the juice box, the juice man, Usaros on Thursday in Seattle, where the Preds are plus 115 and the Kraken are minus 135 with a total of 6. This looks like the line that we saw when it was assumed Saros was going to start against the Canucks. So interesting question would just be, who do you think's better, Seattle or Vancouver? And I think that marginally the Canucks are probably a little bit better. So I think there's maybe a little bit of value on Nashville, but I don't think it's really enough to act on here, so I'll be passing, Nick.
Yeah, I think the Preds and Kraken are, which is probably both how I'm just going to say I'm passing, are both probably flying under the radar a little bit in terms of a pretty reasonable process. I think the Kraken have had that absurd schedule. Tim talked about it, and their underlying process looks pretty reasonable. I was really happy to see them get rewarded with a win over the Lightning on Monday, not just because it came through for us, but they really deserve that. And I still think they're a fun team to root for. But the Preds are kind of in the same boat. Like, they're playing better than we expected. So it just looks like it should be a pretty reasonably close game. And you got Saros in one end versus probably Gruby or maybe Decord's kind of fighting to even be the starter. So I think Preds are past, but not a great bet on this big slate.
Anything for you here, Tim?
Yeah, it's an easy pass. You laid out the math perfect there. I didn't even think of it that way, but you're 100% bang on. this will be a little $20 on regulation tie for me.
Yes, not a bad look either. It's just an interesting also way to look when it's like this, two teams that you think maybe are close in terms of like their actual power rating is home ice advantage. General rule of thumb in the NHL is 20 cents. So on neutral ice, you're looking at a -115, -105 showdown between these two. So just something, a little tool to keep in the kit. All right, on to our best bets. Now, Tim, you can go first with your favorite play.
Yeah, it was in the beginning, Carolina, but since if you can't double down on your dog in your best bet, I am
You
going
can do whatever
to,
you want. You can do whatever you want, compadre.
I love Carolina in that spot. But I also am going to tease yours, Leboff. I love the Toronto Maple Leafs going to Boston with a suspended Charlie McAvoy. I'm also going to hit two Leafs 3-way as well, because the Bruins have yet to lose in regulation. So they're going to lose in regulation at one point, I think, right? So I'm going to piggyback you there.
I'm happy I'm always thrilled to be mistaken for Nick. Not just because of his hair, but he's an incredible hockey handicapper.
This one would be particularly damning because it is a Leafs pick. So
yeah,
I can't even read. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, but it's totally fine. This is Nick's also got his best bet in this one.
Yeah, so my best bet, Tim just dropped it. Just save the confusion, is the Leafs. And McAvoy moves the needle about as much as pretty much any defender in the league. And Grizzlick's out. I just think like Toronto's got a flawed back end too, but this just looks like one that to me that should be a pick 'em. Like the prices that are out there now on the Leafs, flawed as though they are, they're still playing very reasonable hockey. Just got slapped. That was probably their worst game in like the last 5, but I still think they're a really strong team. Top 2 lines look good. And beyond that, third line, I think should be okay. Fourth line is a bit of a train wreck. They've gotten 2 goals from the bottom 6, which is kind of what a lot of people were predicting. And surprisingly, or not surprisingly, Max Domi's really not that good. But I still just look.
But his
dad, is he even on the team? Is he even on the team?
His dad, his attitude, his chirping after the whistle, all of those things didn't make him become a player. But I just think when you look at the top stars of the Leafs, the power play, and they're still supporting their goalies reasonably well. Like Tim said to us yesterday, he couldn't believe the play of Gio, couldn't believe this and that. But I just look at those and like every team has flaws like that, right? We just hear about them 5 times more. And it's really like, I don't think it has to be a knock on the Bruins to say that without McAvoy, I think this should be -1 or should be a pick 'em. So
it's not just McAvoy, right? Like Marchand missed practice today. Derek Forbert's out. You said Grizzlick's out. Like this isn't. I know Derek Forbert doesn't move the needle for folks, but when it becomes like an injury cluster, it does start to weigh on you when at least you got like a replacement level player not in and someone who eats up penalty kill minutes too. So yeah, I think that the Leafs at plus money are the right side in a game that I think would be fair at a pick 'em. My favorite play is Yep.
Oh, sorry, Leboff. I was just gonna add one more thing in terms of it's so great to get the Leafs off of that dud performance, like you said, Nick, and they're probably their worst effort of the season. They had the rookie party. So like, Keefe's doing you guys just want to have the rookie party and this, and then you drop a dud to the LA Kings, and then the Bruins, like, they're ready to get handed out the Stanley Cup on November 1st. So I kind of like the spot for the storyline there.
You listen to like some of the takes on TSN and stuff today, and it's like Leboff always likes to chirp. It's like, holy crap, it's one game. They're 5-3-1. It's not great, but it's not bad. And this is a team that could get 140 points and no one would give a shit. Like that's
it's so great.
And then they lose one regular season game to a pretty good team. And it's just like the end of the world. Everyone's freaking out. And it's like, I just feel like we know where this is headed. Like they're going to head into the playoffs as one of the league's better teams, right? And then it'll be their time to see if, or to prove if anything actually changed or not.
We've got plenty of Canadian listeners, so they'll know what you're talking about. But in American hockey fans, especially those who are in the weeds, know how like the Toronto media works. But it is to a non fan, I've explained it to some people at Action who aren't really big hockey fans. They are just bewildered by it. It's so bizarre, to the point that former GM Kyle Dubas was like, yeah, one of the writers at The Athletic was running surveillance on me during a game, like live blogging my celebrations and stuff. It's just weird up there. And that's why things get out of hand. And sometimes that seeps into the betting market. Wouldn't you know? Devils and Wild is where my favorite bet will be. It's on New Jersey as a road favorite. They're minus 125. I think it'll move a little bit. I still like it to minus 130-ish. Minnesota at plus 105. And the total's at 7. The Wild aren't good. Like, I just don't think they're that good. And I think this is a bad matchup for them. And I know Matt Baldy's coming back, but it's his first game. And it's not guaranteed. So that does make Minnesota, gives them a little bit more teeth offensively, but it's really not the offense that I'm worried about. It's just that this team has been a mess in its own end without Jared Spurgeon. And you just talked about Charlie McAvoy and moving the needle there. Spurgeon has proven to be a big time needle mover with Minnesota, with the way that they've looked coming out of the gates. Just not very good. Inconsistent is maybe a little more fair. But a team that I think the Devils have every chance in the world just to run roughshod here with the way that they play and have been playing. So I'll take the Devils here as a road favorite, Nick.
I agree. I think I was pumped that we said that the Wild were a complete paper tiger before that Philly game, because the rest of that road trip, they just got pummeled and they deserved it. They really weren't playing very good. They haven't defended very well. They should improve a little bit on that front. But I actually think, too, if I had to play in this game, I think you could look at the over as well. Just on the way the Devils have been playing, they're going to generate. And this hit on Sunday when it was the same matchup, first leg of this home and home. And I think it can hit again. Like, Gustafsson's great, but it gets a big ask to think that the Devils aren't just going to generate enough here to get 4 or so themselves. And then I don't trust the Devils goaltending right now. That looks like the flaw. And they're fully committed to this up-tempo game right now, and it just seems like there's gonna be a lot of chances both ways. So I think the over's a solid look here, and yeah, definitely Devils would be my lean as a side.
All right, Tim, you can take us home.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good point about this is a home and home for them, and the Devils won the first matchup 4-3. People like to think that because one team won the first leg of it, that the other team is going to win the second leg of it. Like, oh, they're going to be pissed off, the other team, whatever. And I know we've talked about betting spots a lot on this show with, oh, this team's won 3 in a row, this team's lost 3 in a row. And yeah, that's not necessarily how it works. But like, for instance, the Bruins are eventually going to lose a game in regulation. And for this, it's like saying just because the roulette wheel was red, that it's going to be black on the next spin. We saw, remember, with Edmonton and Vancouver in the first 2 games of the season. Edmonton gets pantsed by Vancouver. Oh, here we go. Edmonton's going to, square it up, even things up. They're going to be pissed off. And it doesn't happen. So I think it's just a little lesson of it's like doubleheaders in baseball. They're not just going to split just because.
Lovely. All right. That does it for this week's episodes of Line Change. Thank you for sitting with us on all 3. Hopefully Thursday night is the best of the bunch, because it is the biggest of the bunch with 12 games on the slate. It was off the top. Our favorite underdogs were the Hurricanes, the San Jose Sharks, and the Winnipeg Jets. And then best bets on Canes and Leafs in a quasi best bet from Tim, Leafs from Nick, and the Devils from me. Thank you very much for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe. We will see you next week.